Pizza Papa always gets paid.
Autobots, transform and roll out!
Mike! 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 So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike! So many Mike!
Hey, welcome back to part 2 of our TransWarped extravaganza here on Two Mikes, Too Furious. My name is Mike Seibert. I am your first-time viewer, and joining me, as always, is the Spark Soul brother, the Pizza Papa, who always gets paid, Michael Andrews.
Yeah, hello.
I'm 2 for 2 on that.
I love it. It catches me every time, too. I'm all prepared and ready, and then Pizza Papa.
By special request, you were like, at the closing of our Christmas episodes, you're like, hey, could you add Pizza Papa to the intro? And I'm like,
right. Yes.
See,
my Christmas wish, I forgot.
I have the advantage and disadvantage. It's a real rose and a thorn. Editing the episodes, I spend a lot of time in the audio, so it's like I hear things that, not unlike my dude Soundwave, like I hear everything. It's
Absolutely.
Just like, and I just that doesn't necessarily mean I comprehend it, but sometimes I do.
You gave me the gift, and I was so interested in the wrapping paper, I just forgot about the gift entirely. So
it was incredibly shiny. So. But joining us again for our jam-packed panel is the one and only TFG1 Mike. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're also joined by the notorious Alpha Magnus.
yes.
As well as the number one super fan of Two Mikes, Too Furious, Matty B, Matthew Barbario.
Aloha.
And of course, our favorite oceanographer, it's Abby.
I feel like I need a mic name now. Everyone has a mic name.
I know. We'll work
cool
on
handle.
Ocean Abbey or something. I don't know. Kind of like in the key of Yellow Card's Ocean Avenue.
There's a place off Ocean Avenue.
I don't like that. I like this progressively less, and I immediately regret it.
You could have just made a Yellow Submarine reference or something.
Right.
I like that less also.
Oh, come on. It wasn't that bad.
We're good. We don't have to worry about it.
She's like, please, can we please move on? So when we last saw our heroes, war broke out across the cosmos as we got to see Rodimus for all of 5 minutes, and we learned the origins of Sari Sumdak, kind of, and we learned more about Ratchet's deep trauma, and picking up immediately where we left off at, we're going to get into the Burger Bot throwdown between the Headmaster and Optimus Prime. But before we get into that, Abby, you kind of joined us partway through part 1, and it's like after hours and hours of Rodimus legislation. Before we start fresh here in part 2, because I know you were more interested in joining us for part 2 and part 3, but like any particular thoughts about part 1 that you wanted to get out there on the record and documented before we go back to the Burger Bot.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I missed kind of the first half. But again, it was really nice to see some bots we haven't seen before again, like Rodimus. And then it's Red Alert, right? That's the name they went with. Because that was, and I remember, I don't know if we've talked about it on the show, but Red Alert was actually meant to be part of the main cast at one point.
Oh, that's right.
Not Ratchet. So it was nice to see her design be utilized. I really liked seeing her because I think it's a really interesting design. I love Ratchet, though. Glad we get to see Ratchet, but also like to see that she does get an appearance in this show. And again, kind of a lot of the space bridge legislation of, again, kind of what you guys had talked about, that the Autobots have the upper hand of this version, other than like having Omega Supreme. Part of that is because they have space bridges, and so it kind of being a fight to get access to those space bridges was a really fun way to start the episode, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. A great way to kick off the season.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask this earlier, but it's since we're on it now, even if it's just a one-word answer, can we all go through that opening intro of TransWarped Part 1 favorite character cameo from that one, or you can base it off design or whatever you like. But who do we like?
TFG1 Mike is holding up a Rodimus Prime Funko Pop.
That's right. Good old Rodimus.
Yep.
I love Rodimus's bow and arrow. It's just too cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is.
Cyclonus too.
See, Abby took mine. I was going to say Cyclonus because.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm just
Get her out of here.
Yeah, out. But no, like I was gonna say Cyclonus because like that was the one that surprised me the most. Him and Braun. Those were the two characters that I had no idea existed in this universe, let alone were going to show up in this episode and in this show. That's so yeah. So for surprise points, I would give it to those, but for design wise, oh man, I mean, I don't want to start naming off characters because I like them all. I like that like Oil Slick is kind of like a cracked out, biker mad scientist type of dude, kind of like if Lockdown laid off the protein powder, that kind of thing. But also, I mean, again, Strika, as I said, we love a thick queen. So I love that character design, and she has such presence. It's just like a capable military commander. It's like I really like that. It's like Strika wants to get stuff done, and I really, really like that.
Yeah, quickly to throw mine in, I think if you would have asked me this before I rewatched the episode, I probably would have said Hotshot. My big fan of that, my namesake there kind of vibes. But yeah. I think now that I actually rewatched it, Braun is so cool to see Braun. Always love his mode, love the colors, and I love that we got the alt mode shot. He's just this like cute little cube. Like that was a real fun one.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Matt?
I gotta go Blackout.
Yeah,
I can't go with anybody else.
Thank you. We thank you.
I've got a two-parter. I like that Strika was there because I'm like the only Beast Machines fan on the planet.
No, you're not. Don't even go there.
Okay,
You have some friends here.
No.
All right, good. So that is appreciated, and they did not veer from anything on that. That is Strika, if there ever was a Strika. We need more figures of that character. That would be awesome. But for design wise and in spoilers for the future of the show, Oil Slick, hands down. That is one of the few figures that I've thought about getting another one. Like I don't have any of the animated figures anymore, but that one I really liked, and I hope that they bring one out because I think we're still due one more motorcycle mold from because Hasbro said they're finishing off all of the laser cycles. I think the next one is the one that would look most
interesting
like that. Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get an Oil Slick sooner than later.
If they want to keep the trademark up, they better.
Yeah, but it's one of those deals where he's just so cool and bizarre.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like what a bizarre and that has, as far as I know, no previous. That's all new. Yeah, it's like, hey, I got an idea for a cool dude. Let's make him, and then they made him. And he's the favorite. He's the one that I used the base for to make my animated Wreck-Gar. I just took the head off of an animated Wreck-Gar, slapped it on top of an Oil Slick, and made it my actual motorcycle.
Yeah, actually, funny story about Oil Slick. That kind of got me back into collecting animated figures again. But I drifted off, and then in 2020 I got back into it because I totally forgot about that character. Saw it randomly scrolling through eBay, and picked it up and put it out for like my Halloween decorations that year because it was just like fit perfectly on that shelf.
I probably made more customs out of that figure than any other one.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Good old animated.
Yeah.
Great equalizer.
And that togetherness continues now here at the Burger Bot. Where
Burger Bot.
What about the Burger Bot though? I mean,
yeah.
When are they going?
Right. What time?
The chicken bot instead, or is that just a con job?
Well, now
Cybertron fried chicken. Yeah.
Here's the other thing. This implies that the Burger Bot is a singular thing, whereas I think at times where we've glimpsed the Burger Bot in the future, I just took it to be a chain. Is this the one and only Burger Bot? I wonder.
Well, remember, New Detroit's kind of ahead of the curve in robotics, so I don't think the rest of the country is caught up with automated burger service.
Does the sign say like dozens served?
Right.
Doesn't serve. It's all fun and games until the robots want to unionize. Just getting nowhere with these topical jokes here. Maybe I should stop doing
Too
them.
soon.
My first thought was iRobot, but that was 20-something years ago now.
That's the thing. The world is literally on fire. Of course, it's too soon. My God. These are not the good times. Except for here.
Just try to make them the best times.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But no, so the battle is joined between Optimus and the Headmaster, and this fight's a lot of fun. You get some sweet grappler action, which I'm always a fan of. You get some top tier axe play in a little bit. But like the kickoff to this scene is some really good Optimus and Sari interaction, because he ushers the Sumdax to a hiding spot behind around the corner from the Burger Bot. It's like, okay, so you
Now stay here and stay down.
Stay out of sight, and I'll take care of the Headmaster. And Sari again is, to use a Whirl's phrasing, they're going to join us later in the episode again. But Sari is just being a little shit here.
I am not sitting next to him. I want my own safe place.
And David Kaye doesn't bring this out often, so it's always a delight when he does. But like when his Optimus loses patience, because he's like there's an urgency in his voice where he's just like, cut the shit, hide in the dumpster.
Just stay here, please.
And this is serious.
It's like he gets kind of full dad mode here. Like someone has to be dad. Isaac Sumdac doesn't want to step up to the plate. Really, he's still too concerned to be like true dad. But this whole scene's great. Even the little shit energy coming from Sari is like kind of a little comic relief we needed.
Yeah, and it's not unwelcome. But like I said, this fight is pretty good. They blast through a roadway. Optimus comes out with like a big slab of concrete, or I'm sorry, the Headmaster has the slab of concrete and knocks Optimus down. And this is to the point that you made just a moment ago, Michael Andrews. Sumdac does step up, and it's time to take action. And he's we talked about the dynamic between Bulkhead and Headmaster. Likewise, we've seen multiple confrontations between Isaac Sumdac and Henry Masterson, both in and out of the Headmaster unit. And I like that this serves two things. One, he is asserting himself as a father to Sari and is protecting her, and arguably, putting his own life on the line to defend her. But he's also not afraid of Henry Masterson, and I think that's pretty cool also.
Masterson! I am the one you want. Leave Sari alone. She is my daughter, and I love her, and no one touches her. Especially not someone driving around in a big, dumb, giant head.
Well, first of all, I kind of like the idea that he's sort of inspired by Optimus to step up to the dad plate like that.
Yeah.
But I also think if it was anybody else but Masterson, we wouldn't have got that moment from him. Like Masterson being there was kind of the opportunity he needed to I can take this guy. I've handled this guy before. I can look like a cool guy.
Yeah, and it, Sari is taken by it. She, connects. She understands, and that's when you get some more. We're doing some body horror stuff here, where it's like it's less graphic and upsetting this time.
I think it's more of a cyberpunk thing, but still.
Yeah. You're right.
Because Akira kind of started it, and those are kind of like Akira, Ghost in the Shell are kind of the granddaddies of that cyberpunk genre. I don't think it existed before that. I mean, there was a few 80s movies on our end that were close, like Harrison Ford one, Brain No Work.
Oh, Blade Runner.
There you go. That's kind of the whole genre. It's kind of clicked through, and that's like a trope of that more than anime. Even I think is that it's a cyberpunk. You're getting your mods, your augmentations, augs, all that.
Yeah. Totally. And Sari, even as we see her now, kind of fits into that, because it's like, you know, she's starting to learn about these extra normal abilities that she has. And, you know, so she knows that she's conjured like these Iron Man style repulsor blasters out of her hands, and she does so again and shoots this energy projection at Headmaster. And I think it's at this point that, in addition to like shooting like regular like blast, she does like a straight up Hadouken also. I think she's kind of like figuring out how to like conjure a larger energy blast and project those as well. So she's already very quickly starting to get a little bit of handle on her new powers. But regardless, Optimus rejoins the fight, runs Headmaster over in truck mode, which again, I'm always here for vehicular combat. You know, it's like where you can utilize, you know, your alt mode as effectively as robot mode. That's Transformers for me. That's some great stuff.
Well, I don't want to make you hate this scene, Mike, but and maybe Maddie B can back me up, but like it felt very like 2007 live action movie to me, like the freeway fighting, the jumping off of it. I don't know. I definitely got vibes of that.
Reused footage from that movie. The island that was on here.
Oh, sure.
So the other part that I like is that we're close, but he kind of goes like Gerwalk mode and like pulls just his arms out while he's in truck mode. Like I love it when they do stuff like that. Like a Bumblebee does it all the time, but Optimus doesn't do it quite as much. But he literally just like starts like pushing against him. Yeah.
To that point, I feel like everyone's kind of learning from each other. We've already seen like Ratchet have kind of Prowl moments, and now Optimus is pulling a Bumblebee. We've seen Heelys on a couple people. Like, I think that's really cool. I don't know if that's just coming naturally or if there's some sort of like, you know, on the writing side, there's something direct.
Yeah. And you get a real righteous conversation here confrontation more like with between Optimus and the Headmaster, where, you know, Optimus kind of has the upper hand and he's taunting Masterson.
Why don't you try fighting like a jet?
That is, unless you don't think you can handle transforming.
I mean, he's almost like Darkwing here. He's just like, hey, he doesn't even have cogs. He can't even transform. And he's really kind of like picking on him. It's like,
it is pretty difficult, especially for a noob such as yourself.
That is the Marty McFly Back to the Future 2, you know, nobody calls me chicken thing.
Nobody calls me chicken needles. Nobody.
And he loses it. And it's such a deft, clever move on Optimus's part here.
Yeah, and this whole thing felt really like toyetic to me. Like, did any of us toy guys here have this like, oh, like the head? I mean, this happens a lot now, especially in modern Hasbro stuff. Like, fucking trying to do the transformation. I'm on step 6 of 36, and the head flies off. Like, it was a little bit like awesome, hilarious, and then I also kind of cringed at the end. I was like, too real.
You're so right, though, with like when you see the actual transformation of Starscream, and like I haven't transformed my my animated Skywarp figure yet to see how close that is to how it goes, but it looks like that's what it ought to do. I would think that's where the head goes, and like you said, Michael Anders, it's such a toyetic thing where it's just like you could even see like the straining as the panels fold in. As if you, the collector, is like, come on, man, it's gonna work. This has to tab in. This has to tab in.
By this time, they had already that toy had come out, so I'm sure they just used the toy as the model for it. Where a lot of times, if you see it, especially with Transformers Prime and season 1 of this, like the toys weren't in the animator's hands yet. So they kind of just fudged it. But by like season 3, it was like, here's the toy. We know how this is supposed to move.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, either way, missed opportunity by the animators for some like whitening plastic tension lines as it's crimping up.
Real missed opportunity to just go full Akira and smash him inside.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, the Blurr sequence is coming up, dude. Come on, man. I mean, if you want Smash trauma, you're gonna get it. You just be patient. Be patient. But
that was the appetizer.
How many people do you need imploded in this episode, Alpha Magnus? My God.
Yes.
Oh no. But regardless, the strain is too much, and the headmaster unit pops right off, sending Starscream's lifeless, headless body just spiraling off into the river, and that's mildly upsetting.
Without even his own head to console him.
No. But welcome to the episode, Captain Fanzone. Finally.
He wasn't in the last one, was he?
No.
He couldn't say he hates machines then.
No, and spoiler alert, he doesn't hear either. I know, but basically, like I like this thing where Optimus Prime just kind of like for the second time in as many episodes just snags Masterson by basically the scruff of his neck and turns him over. Yeah, exactly. Turns him over to water. Yeah, it's
Game over, Masterson. I think you know Captain Fanzone.
So from there, we go back to Sumdac Tower, where Prowl has decided to reveal his findings, his discoveries to Optimus.
Exposition.
Yeah, we're next stop, Exposition Station. All aboard for Exposition Station.
But at least it isn't as long as the Burger Bot scene was.
Yeah.
We're going
Somehow
to
it's
the
not as
Burger Bot.
That's a great point.
While you were at the Burger Bot, I
exposed all this stuff.
I did actual work.
That's right.
I didn't get to mention this in the last episode, but I kind of love that it's like this is Prowl's side quest because it fits with like the detective thing that we've had from him this whole time. Like he figured out the stuff about Lockdown's ship in that early episode, and like he's kind of playing the detective role. So
all three of these feel like there's nothing wasted. Because everybody has something to do.
There isn't anything wasted at all.
Yeah. And if he hadn't been doing that, it would have been a waste.
Yeah, everybody's got something to do. But
his I guess, sorry to interrupt you, but like his Sherlock moment here of like his juicy reveal that he had to like figure this out, like that just kind of like bookends his whole detective experience in the show.
After reviewing as much data as I could, I believe what you had in your laboratory was a protoform.
Which I love getting that name drop.
What is a protoform?
That's terminology that goes back to Beast Wars, right?
Beast Wars.
Yeah, so we were talking about protoforms back then. I was trying to remember if like
it was first for that. Allspark, I think, was first for the movies, but they did call it the Creation Matrix. There's a whole bunch of they kind of have stuff, and they're like, we're going to take only this part because I think Sparks also might have been from Beast Wars, right?
Yeah, Sparks is from Beast Wars.
Definitely. Yeah. So you kind of get this flashback where Isaac Sumdac discovers this liquid metal infant, because when I see something, when I see a robot baby, the first thing I want to do is touch it. It's like, I think my dude Isaac Sumdac hasn't seen one of them alien movies, because those movies would not happen unless somebody wanted to like stick their face in one of them eggs. It's like, oh, right.
It also bothers me that he touches it with a like literally those are like acid proof gloves. Like, what? My DNA went through the glove.
I thought about that.
Hey, babe, it happens.
Well, and I think, especially given the amount of electrical charge to the point where there is a transactional jolt, not all that dissimilar to when the Allspark imprinted on Sari in the first episode. I kind of got some of those vibes, but Sumdac gets zapped enough to where that's the origin of his Mike Seibert skunk stripe in his hair there, which I thought was super cool. I'm like, I am here for an origin of a Rogue-esque white stripe there. But like, I would think though, to address the thing with the gloves, I would think that like there's that amount of electricity, I don't necessarily think it needs to be like, raw flesh, like a bare hand touching liquid metal. I think I think that imprinting happens regardless.
I just chalked it up to the animators didn't want to have to change the design.
Yeah. Conversely, I'm just trying to Marvel no prize it to where it's like, it's like it still works. It still works. That kind of thing.
Out of all the writing that they could have screwed up, oh my God, he didn't take his glove off. That doesn't count here because it doesn't matter.
We'll give him
that's how he remembers it.
Yeah,
it's a flashback for how he remembers
well,
it.
it's true. But it's still a nothing burger bot.
It's how he sees himself in the Matrix.
Oh, see, you beat me to it, Alpha Magnus. I was thinking exactly the same thing. It's like in this flashback, we're seeing it presumably how he remembers it, not how it may have actually
10 pounds lighter. Always.
Yeah, exactly.
Svelte, gloves on, perfect.
Yeah. Smoke show.
Yeah.
It's like hope you bought tickets for the smoke show with Isaac Sumdac. Professor Smoke Show? No, that doesn't quite work.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. But regardless, there's further clarification, and Sari seems to be okay with this because previously she was upset at the revelation of Cybertronian tech. And that there was some Megatron reverse engineering shenanigans. So now that it's something more like this, that seems to bring her a degree of peace that she didn't have between using her powers and learning this new information. I think we're seeing in a relatively short time that doesn't feel rushed, her going on this path of acceptance that will lead us to the consequences of the end of this episode.
She goes very much from I'm Frankenstein's monster to I'm Hasbro Jesus, real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, because is it here where she's like, well, actually that kind of makes us cousins then. That's pretty cool.
Cool, we're like cousins.
That means I'm the one true savior.
Exactly.
As if she didn't need a bigger head about herself.
And that's the other thing too. But yeah, and of course you get a little bit of sequel bait of well,
it still doesn't explain how a protoform ended up in Sumdac's lab.
Well, that's a cool story for another time. That's a great question. Story for another time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to with at least the mystery doesn't let up, right? We have some answers. It's not a complete cliffhanger. They're not dragging everything out for an entire season, but we get a little more mystery to speculate about.
Yeah. So it's here where Ratchet kind of contacts Prime.
Prime! We have a situation! Autobot down!
He's found Bulkhead at the mine, right? And he's like, oh shit, Bulkhead is fucked up and Bumblebee is gone. It's like there's things are not great.
Yeah, checking in, things not so good.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the Community meme where Troy walks in with the pizzas and it's just like everything's on fire and nothing is okay. It's kind of there, as if Ratchet needs more to be upset about, right?
Right. Give this guy a break.
Yeah. But here we see what's happened to our little black and yellow dude. He emerges in deep space with this subspace spammer thing in hand at about the same time here. I think this is where Omega Supreme reemerges from out of the transwarp field.
So I'll bring this up now. This is kind of what they're alluding to, and it's not really straight up said, but he's kind of riding the wake of Omega Supreme. Yeah. So when Omega Supreme does something, Bumblebee does it shortly after because he's holding that thing. He's not the same spot. He's just riding the wake, and you figure it out in the next episode. You're like, oh, well, that's what I did. He goes, the other guy goes until they grab him out of it.
Because
I'm figuring out for the first time right now, actually. So that's really insightful. Because actually, I mean, watching it, I was kind of like, this is one time that they're doing a too coincidental sin in this stuff. This is just a little too perfect of a situation.
He said that without this, you'll just random waves. So whenever someone else does a transwarp,
that's the Bumble. Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
the rock thing later. It's the whole whole shebang.
Perfect.
Gotcha. I love it. And seeing
Ding.
yeah, exactly. and that's a strike. Now we can't be played in Belarus.
I don't think that was in tune at all. So I think we're good.
But yeah, so like we said, Omega reemerges, but he's powered down. He's dead stick at this point. And the implication, I guess, is that he's used up all of his juice to transwarp.
Curious. The effort of the transwarp must have put the Autobot into sleep mode.
Megatron here kind of fussy about it because it's like he doesn't quite know what to do. They can't escape from within Omega without their gear, without weapons.
You're forgetting one of us is a weapon.
And a pitiful weapon at that.
They're having an adventure, and yeah, as we said, back on Cybertron, and is Shockwave talking to other Decepticons at this point?
Cliffjumper. He's talking to Cliffjumper.
Okay, but I think I'm getting this part. I think I'm getting this part confused with a different part then, because like there's a part where he switches back into being Long Arm, but he's still doing the Shockwave voice.
Long Arm Prime to Cybertron Command. What is going on with the Space Bridge Nexus? Report.
The entire network's been shut down, sir. Ultra Magnus's orders.
Oh, that's funny.
So like when he talks to Cliffjumper, he's doing the Shockwave voice. It is messed up because like he basically like because like I think in his default he's just out as Shockwave and then
he has to put on the long arm. Yeah, he has to put on the long arm.
So I think that's what it is. It's like so he gets this call from Cliffjumper, and then he's just like whether I don't know if that's secret foreshadowing or if that was just like a mistake.
Is that the scene where Cliffjumper reports to him and says all the stuff, and then he's like, but he was supposed to be, and then he realizes he's using the Shockwave voice, and he immediately switches to long arm?
Apparently the cons are trying to transwarp their way to Cybertron.
Well, we can't let that happen, can we?
Oh, I think that might be it.
I think that's what that is. If I remember, I'm not like Alpha Magnus over here. I'm not watching it. So
well, and I think I'm straight up misremembering it at this point because like I think there is more than one time where like the Shockwave affect kind of slips into the long arm.
Because he keeps going between the two personalities and he sometimes loses his mind.
So this part right here, I just watched it. It's at 7 minutes and 33 seconds. He's like, well, we can't let that happen. Like switches immediately. Yeah.
Gotcha. So let's see. I see Whirl is just about ready to jump on in there. We're about to do more trauma. You want in?
Deep hurting. Deep hurting.
I was gonna say when World comes back in, we should all pretend like we're out. Like okay, so we're still at the Burger Bot fight scene.
Here, let's all just turn our cameras off.
Here comes a new challenger.
Before we get into this, because we're about to do some real trauma. This seems as good of a good time as any to re-welcome back to the chat. It's Whirl. You've come back just in time for more murder.
Oh boy, which one?
There's so many. There's so much.
The blue wished one.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So I was right.
This whole episode, these 3 parts, essentially, it's an investigation discovery docuseries.
Oh my god, yes. So basically, like, I mean, I have never felt sorry for Blurr as much as I do here because this dude has like escaped from the Starscream clones and has literally run his ass off to get to Cybertron to deliver this valuable intel. And as he like drops at Long Arm's feet, he is just gassed. He is and he kind of basically spells it out, and it is so funny. First, I love this Corey Burton performance as Long Arm and Shockwave. because like, you know, when he does the Shockwave stuff, the more and more you hear it, the more it is just straight up G1 Shockwave, you know, with that, you know, uppity affect to it. But like, his long arm is like so like overwhelmingly friendly.
Agent Blurr, what are you doing back on Cybertron?
Until it starts to slip a little bit. And just like I love the animation on him, because like, you know, I don't know at what point I started noticing in the animation that that the characters have pupils, but Long Arm especially has just like these like huge button pupils. He just like looks around. He's like so expressive, and he realizes the jig is up, and he once again Long Arm Prime, proud graduate of the Megatron's theater school of like, well, oh no, have you told anybody else about this?
That's such a good line delivery too.
Have you shared this information with anyone else?
So have you told anyone else about this? Because you're like, oh no.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch this scene because it's just Blurr like rapid fire digging his own grave.
Yeah. And
this was the first time you watched it, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Did you know that was going to happen?
No.
Yeah. The first time you watch it, it is awful. It is like, what? Excuse me?
It's brutal.
It is so brutal, and it's
such
like
heroic nonsense.
And I'm like with the audience, presumably from 2009, and just like and piecing things together. I'm like, wait, no, because like even when like Shockwave kind of casually goes over to the console, and like he's like,
I know I can't catch you, but I can trap you.
You know, that's just a stone cold killer line right there. But still, like I just thought he was gonna catch him, and
Nope.
I didn't realize.
I mean, he did.
You didn't realize we were going to get a brand new Cybertronian space cube?
Yeah,
a cybernetic space cube.
And I had no idea. I mean, like,
this is one of those scenes where, like, if you're a kid watching this and your parent like walks in and is like, "Oh, hey, you watching some Transformers? That's awesome!" Oh my god,
this one turns into a corpse.
So I have mentioned it before that there was like third-party companies that were just like people making stuff. Someone made the Blurr cube.
They did.
You could buy to go with your animated.
I think Derek actually got one of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, I wouldn't mind a Blurr cube, because you know what a Blurr cube is? Quiet.
That's messed up.
Damn.
Too soon, Mike. Too soon.
There's a paper craft you can get. See that?
Yeah, I made this in Minecraft once.
Oh jeez.
I hate it when you get a Flickr one and it's like, this doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, this is just bone chilling. It's like, you know, and again, when we talk about like who is this for, that type of thing, and it's like, but as we've talked about, like the live action movies kind of informing animation and spilling back and forth, you know, at the end of the day, they are robots, and you can do this kind of stuff with them.
Yeah, I guess in a world where Blurr could have got his like head and spine ripped out with like green goo shooting everywhere.
Oh sure,
we're all right.
There's a clear line of how robots can die in Transformers Animated. Cosmic Rust, you can come.
Oh, he got turned into
Speaking
a cube.
of, wow.
Yeah.
TFG1 Mike just pieced himself out.
Turning into a cube.
The cube.
Oh, before time began, there was the cube.
No, but someone needs to. He's bringing up a point that I'm going to refute: is that he didn't turn gray. He's still blue.
That's true.
Right, there's a chance.
In the
Or he's
art,
just suffering forever in cube form.
well, it's kind of awful.
That's not where I was going.
In
Abby
some of
hit
the
it.
art, you can see his spark still.
Yep.
And it's intact, and so he is still alive. I don't know if that makes it better.
So
Makes it worse.
I don't have any of the stuff to say what season 4 was supposed to be, but I do remember there was Transtech Cheetor.
Yes.
Was one of the things.
Yep.
And it was pretty much just Blurr
It was just
they made a figure for it.
Yep.
So that might have been what happened season 4. We don't know.
We'll never know.
Well, kind of we do know, but
I mean, yeah, I mean,
we can't talk about it now. We can talk about it at the end of.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I mean, I would love to get like Marty Eisenberg and Jim Sorensen and maybe even like Eric Siebenhaler on the show.
I'm in communication with Eric, so I could probably get you.
Mm-hmm. Like I met him at TFCon LA last year, and I gave him a 2 mics button. I told him about the show. He's like, that's cool. And he's like, I'm like, well, do you ever do podcasts? He's like, well, I do this podcast with Aaron Archer, actually. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. All right. So where did we leave off? Oh, this dude is super dead.
Super dead.
Allegedly.
Yeah, right. For now. Well, either way, he's not a threat to revealing the secret of Long Arm Prime. And all of that juicy intel. Like Blurr had one job, and unfortunately, got rooked on this one. Unfortunately, so back on the Earth, Ratchet is trying to repair Bulkhead using his traditional methods of just being a cantankerous doctor person, and this is kind of like the beginning of Sari's unraveling here, because she comes in first of all mouth, and it's just like she's got like she's almost like that Danny DeVito meme where she's like, so anyway, I just started blasting. And like she goes in to like help out Ratchet and is like compassionate for Bulkhead, but her contribution is just blowing up Ratchet's stuff.
Look what I just learned to do.
Yeah,
she was so excited too.
Yeah, right. Like, hey, check out what I can do! Bam, 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 bam.
I needed that.
Yes. Yeah, what a good throwback to these their character roles to each other and their relationship of they're kind of just back to like my key's better. No, my old ways are better. Like,
hey, old man Moses, I'm better than you.
Yeah,
I'm Jesus.
Well, and
I'm the chosen one of 2 races now, Ratchet. So.
Yeah. What did you do? Lead your people through the desert for 40 years?
Well, but I did imprint on a murder bot that basically ended the war. So suck it, child.
Phrasing.
So yeah. But that leads to this confrontation that we're alluding to. It's like Sari is kind of like, hey man, I could just use my key, and Ratchet's like, fuck that, I could fix him. Meanwhile, Bulkhead, who is shown to be graphically fucked up, like the thing that's very interesting within this episode is you do get to see I would say a disproportionate amount of damage on the bots. Like, we talked about what Starscream's body looked like when he was first taken over by the headmaster. We've seen what Bulkhead looks like here. We're going to see in a bit what Bumblebee looks like, and it is shockingly graphic at a point where like it really wasn't until like the 86 movie that you got to see like tore up like metal and like guts showing and stuff like that. And even in the early episodes, like it's like there's some scratches, and I think like Michael Andrews, remind me, wasn't it like in Along Came a Spider that like at one point Bulkhead's like chassis is cracked or something like that, and we spent like entire minutes talking about how just like a single crack in the guy's armor is like upsetting, because you can see like stuff showing underneath and stuff, and I can't
remember when that was, but that happened too.
We're a long way from home,
and also that wound that kept leaking oil. I think that was in those wounds. Bumblebee's
legislation.
Yes, just Kill Bill style. Everywhere.
Yeah, fluid legislation. Yes. Fortunately, there's no fluid involved here. Just a energy blast. But even Bulkhead is just like,
no offense, Stockbot, but I could really use that key.
can Sari just fix this with her key? Because I have like checks notes, open wounds all over my body. Can you like help a brother out?
Can we put the pride aside for a second and let me use the cool magic key that makes me instantly feel better?
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing that I do love about this episode, and I'm sure we're going to continue to litigate this, is like, because I feel like we're like an episode and a half, and I don't know if we've given the proper deference to like so much pays off here, like this for being a season opener, it almost feels like a closer because like so much is tied off here. And it's really satisfying. So it's like, because like we've talked about key legislation before, and we've had like this same philosophical debate about like, you know, the ethics of using the key and the hubris of relying on the key and things like that. So I wouldn't say that they were listening to our time traveling podcast 15 years ago. But I feel like this is kind of like a response to some of those thought processes and not criticisms, but observations.
You got to remember also, this is still in the back of the early days of Twitter.
Yeah.
Where people could do instant reactions to what they saw. Mm-hmm. So maybe maybe this team is good enough that they would have paid it, maybe not always paid attention to the fans, but they're good enough in certain instances where they would have paid attention to some of the stuff that was said about the show at the time it was airing.
Yeah. It was very much treated like, I think it's like Superman, like season, like the first year of Superman, they had to create kryptonite to say, hey, without any consequences, the key is just constantly going to heal everybody. And at a certain point, you gotta, and that's what I feel like this whole 3-part arc is, to be like, all right, we gotta get rid of that key.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also like a really good study in escalating how everyone like wants the key, right? Like there's these like we've had this whole thing of like people don't want the key, and then they're like, no, we need the key, to the point where, you know, getting ahead of it, like Ratchet's like, we need the key, like that's how you know it's really bad.
Yeah. So regardless of that, we go back into the flashback, and I think this is the largest and most substantial one, where basically this is where you learn about Project Omega. And like, I mean, I forgot to call this out in the previous episode because I got lost in the intercutting, but like it's weird when like Ratchet first examines RC, and there's like the transference of the code, and everybody but Ratchet knows what's going on. You know, it's where you've got like Mainframe and that other dude and you know, Ultra Magnus, and they're just like, oh shit, we gotta transform and roll out. We gotta go.
Yeah, they see a little beam of light and they're like, okay, let's go. We gotta go. Come on. And Ratchet's like, all right. I think his exact words were, hey guys, something just happened.
Yeah. and the thing of that scene is, though, he's brand new to that experience, so he doesn't know what they haven't told him before what's good. Like literally, he's finding all about it, so it kind of makes sense that he doesn't know.
Right. Yeah. He has no idea, because I mean, like he's coming off of just being upset from the fact that they're essentially dissecting RC to figure out what's going on here, because like pretty sure that lady is unalive at that point, which is upsetting in its own right. But basically, like this is where you get the whole thing where it's, you know, it's freaking Project Omega, you know, our last stand against the Decepticons, and you know, basically because now RC cannot. She passed on the codes to you. Now you must imprint onto this war machine. Yep. And which, again, like we've already talked about, is just profoundly upsetting. But there's this bit of dialogue where they're describing what Omega Supreme is. You know, it's like, you know, he's a weapon, he's a this and a that. And Ratchet's like, well, oh, no, I'm sorry. It's when Omega comes online and Ratchet goes to imprint. He's like, yeah, it's like Omega has his phrasing is uncomfortable because he's like, you know,
I am Omega Supreme. I am yours to command. I am your pupil, your dependent, Your obedient servant.
And then Ratchet's just like, hey, man, I'm your friend.
Yeah.
And that just tears your goddamn heart out.
Oh, yeah.
It's such good storytelling.
Mhm.
Just the world building here is just so cool. It's, again, same thing I said in the first episode. Terrible, but really, really cool. Really, really well done. Ratchet very much had the experience of being loaded into an ambulance and being told by an EMT, you're about to meet a lot of people really fast.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I think some of the dialogue here is actually really cool too, because when Ratchet's going, oh, you don't want him to think too much about all the damage he's going to be doing, kind of pointing to the ethics of it. Magnus says, we do what we must. And that's a phrase that'll be repeated in a slightly different sense. I think it's all in TransWarped Part 3, but I think it's an interesting phrase that highlights that there are immoral things happening here and unethical things, but we are trying to survive and we are trying to keep our friends alive. And so I think I didn't realize he said it here at first. And then when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my gosh, he said it.
Yeah.
But just kind of that, we do what we must mentality throughout these, in war and then in the present as well was really cool to bring up.
The exact phrasing comes back several times, and again, I said it in the first episode, but it's not walked back. They keep saying, I think it's we do what we have to, even if sometimes it doesn't make sense. And I don't think I got that exact, but it's similar to that. But it's wild to me that that's never walked back in this series of episodes. In this it might be later on and I don't remember, but this is it's repeated and it's hammered in, and that's crazy to me.
Yeah, and conversely, there's no comeuppance. There's no consequence for the Autobots other than intrapersonal trauma of this decision. So it's more Ultra Magnus would probably be like, and I'd do it again and again and again. The Magnus strikes me as a dude very much ends justify the means.
Yeah.
Mike, did Lucky watch this episode with you?
She did not. No.
Oh man, one of these days we got to get Lucky to watch one of these and then come on the podcast and give her raw reactions of what the hell are they teaching these kids? War crimes are
watching
good
it.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes war crimes are okay. Well, no, they're never okay.
No, they're never okay.
Why did we put this moral in this episode? What are we trying to get across here?
Yeah.
Don't watch Clone Wars
No. I've watched a good amount of Clone Wars.
Rebels. Jesus.
Yeah.
We love war crimes in Clone Wars. What's Chopper's kill count? Can we bring that up in the podcast?
I just want to clip that audio, and just make it on a separate loop. I love war crimes -whirl.
Yeah, we got I grew up with Clone Wars, so I saw Anakin and Obi-Wan fake surrender so many times. So
yeah. On the reg, yeah.
I think another interesting thing is that it kind of sounds like they're condoning war crimes, but Ratchet doesn't really have a choice. He can't say no, really.
Right. Or it's going to go to someone else, right? That might not be as good at it.
That's not going to care as much. Yeah.
But also, he has the data. Either he's going to do it, or they're going to find a way to get it out of him.
And put it on somebody else to have somebody else transfer it. Yep.
Yeah. So that we do what we must is we're doing what we have to do, but that means you need to do this for the betterment of whatever, which is unfortunate for Ratchet.
He got being John Malkovich.
Yeah,
he did.
It's either going to be me or it's going to be somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what was going through his head at the moment when he uses the language of friend. He probably thought he was doing a big favor there, or I'm not going to be as terrible as these guys. I'm going to befriend this thing. But was that good? Did that ultimately play out? I don't think it did. I guess I'm surprised Omega's not more cratchety like Ratchet. But yeah,
he's a sleepy boy. He likes to sleep.
Yeah,
right.
It's canon. It's canon.
the Snorlax of the TFA.
Yeah, it's just let me sleep. But yeah,
I do want to see the Omega though. That's like a product of Cratchety Ratchet, where he's he's like that kid that's an old soul. He's just movies these days, not for me. I just want that version of Omega Supreme.
But you bring up a really good point also in that the twining of their fates, and it makes it worse for both of them. Like, Omega seems to have a greater depth of what he's done, more than he would have if maybe even RC had imprinted on him. And likewise, Ratchet has that. Again, we all said it in the previous episode, but again, literal trauma bonding. So like, it's like if that was somebody else, would Omega had been that much more ruthless? We speculated, what would have happened with if it had been RC. But let's take that even further to the points we already made. If Ratchet doesn't play ball, he's on that slab next to her, being unalived with his noggin carved open.
Yep, pretty much.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
that is that is chilling.
Yeah,
that is chilling. Speaking of chilling, Whirl, if I'm understanding where we're at in the episode, this seems to be as good a time as any for story time. Got it right?
I think so. Yeah, I think this is where we see, because Percy's the one explaining it.
Yes.
He's doing the Stephen Hawking voice.
Yes.
I guess, do you want to do the story time bit and I'll chirp in as necessary?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, so top down, we see Perceptor. We actually saw a glimpse of him in the previous episode. I clocked that particular microscope shape, but he shows up here in full. You see him as like a microscope mounted truck thing, which is kind of neat. I mean, I guess that's maybe an homage to his kind of G1 sort of tank mode type of thing. But basically, Perceptor gives this exposition and explanation about what Omega is and how they wanted him to have limited processing, but it is through this Stephen Hawking-esque text-to-speech technology of the era. So this is completely computer generated. It's not a voice actor doing a Stephen Hawking-esque voice, which on my first time viewing, I'm glad we're unpacking this now, because like on my first time viewing, that's what I thought. I'm like, oh my God, did they get somebody to do that? That is ghoulish and uncomfortable. But the truth of it is even more uncomfortable. Like on one hand, it's almost a separate conversation to talk about the ethics, I guess, of trying to emulate the Stephen Hawking voice, like even as like an imitation. It's like, is it an homage or is it just uncomfortable? I think now in the year of 2025, it skews uncomfortable. It might not have in 2009.
I'm very glad I didn't start with doing my Stephen Hawking, but no, there's a rap artist, MC Hawking, and he just did it through the same thing. But he even said himself, he's like, "No, I'm done. Dude's dead. He got the joke. We're good. Like we're done here." Like once the guy died, they're like, "All right, the joke's done. We don't need to do this anymore." Like that guy had a sense of humor. First off, Stephen Hawking. Like he had a sense of humor. He was on Big Bang Theory. He was doing Simpsons and stuff. Guy was not unaware of his thing. So that's fine. And they could have speak and spelled it, I guess. Isn't that a Hasbro one, or maybe that's Mattel?
Either one, it doesn't matter. It's the same reference, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So instead, they opt to do this text to speech thing, and it is so fascinating, goddamned fascinating, how this computer generated thing was a thing in 2009, and now we're having the same conversations about similar technology now in 2025. It's kind of chilling if you think about it for too hard and for too long. But putting that discomfort aside, we spent so much time talking about how in this show, Transformers Animated, they go out of their way to get legacy voice actors when they can. You got yourself a Sue Blue. You got yourself a Judd Nelson. I mean, it's not legacy, but you got Weird Al Yankovic, Corey Burton for
Corey Burton. Well, I mean, Weird Al and Corey Burton, technically legacy. I mean, you know, Weird Al only did him in the movie, but no, Weird Al didn't do him in the movie. That's
what I mean, and that's where the legislation kind of falls apart. But the point being is that Paul Eiding, the voice of Perceptor, is right there.
Yeah,
and from what I understand, that I don't believe he was even asked. I don't believe he was invited. And what I don't know, because I'm not as entrenched in this stuff, is if it was two things can be true at the same time. Like they did this speech to text thing as a cost saving measure, but also to kind of like, because like I've heard folks talk affectionately about the kind of like Stephen Hawking characterization of Perceptor. But I think that they made a specific choice to not hire a living voice actor. And with that, this hits me now disproportionately harder, hits us harder disproportionately now than if we were doing this, say, a few years ago. Or literally 2 years ago, or not 3.
Literally, 2 or 3 years ago, because it wasn't until recently in the last year and a half that I don't even know how to describe it, but you all know the weird AI male voice that's out there. Like, no. And the thing is, and I think this is the other part of it, is regardless of what the voice acting thing or what the behind the scenes stuff is with it, you think about it with how the Autobots are in this show, how the Elite Guard is, how Magnus is, how Sentinel is. Of course, they're going to have a computer be their scientist. They're not going to have someone who sounds like even if Paul Eiding can sound like a computer as a real person, these Autobots would rather have the technology than the human, I think. It's the Cybertron, the ones on Cybertron.
Yeah, in universe, I think, and I don't know if this is actually like canon, but I think Word of God, didn't Derek J. Wyatt say that he like had deleted his emotions to make more room for science or something?
I think
yes, that sounds
maybe.
Right.
Yeah, but no, I think that this was. There's only so many characters that Plain Talk can get away with voicing in the year 2009. I think at the same time, I googled it. I think Wall-E came out around this time also.
Okay.
And I think Plain Talk voiced the steering wheel on the ship.
I didn't know that.
I just Googled it, and it comes up as a credited role for Plain Talk next to Percy and Stephen Hawking, and then whatever happened to Robot Jones. But like that's it. That's all that's on this page, and I don't know if it's not a full page. I don't know how many times Plain Talk has had a credit in a show like this, but I think at the time this would have been like, oh hey, cool, they've got a robot voicing a robot. That's pretty neat. Did not age well. We're here 20 years later, and it's like, oh, that you took a guy's job for that. That's that's crazy.
Wall-E was released in 2008.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so around the same kind of but no, we had this conversation with Paul Eiding when we were at dinner after Cybfest, and because we had brought up the topic of AI and voice actors and things like that, and I don't remember how he phrased this, but the sentiment here was that like, oh yeah, I was the first person that happened to, and that's it didn't age well.
Yeah, and. So like World said, we had welcomed Paul Eiding, voice of Perceptor, to Cybfest Northwest in Seattle. He had a great time. We had a great time with him, and he joined us for our post-show Panera bread with a side of bread, carb load, post-convention feast.
It's and it works.
Yeah, and it was great that he was able to grace us with his time and all that, and and we talked about this stuff. And I remember, and keeping in mind, this is before Two Mics had even started. Like, I don't think we had even started season 1 yet, and so he's talking about what the other organizers, Ben had said something like over his shoulder, and he's like, oh yeah, and the thing with animated, and like I could see Mr. Eiding like visibly grimace and like shake his head in disgust. Like he's so we can, through eyewitness account, we could say that Mr. Paul Eiding was not happy with this with this move and doesn't support it retroactively.
Yeah, I kind of feel like if he's still around, why not just call him?
Yeah.
He
Like,
mentioned
make
too, and
something else a robot voice that's not like a thing already, you know?
Yeah. I want to give the context here too that he was when we were having this discussion, he was very respectful of everyone involved. He wasn't talking smack about anybody, but he did mention like at some point and I don't remember who he said it was that had made that decision, but he said that like they had met at some point and he was like ribbing on him and he was like, "Oh, so you're the reason I didn't get that job. That's interesting." And the guy was like, "Oh, yeah." But no, I don't think, because the last time he's voiced Perceptor most recently was in the G1 movie theater.
Like, didn't we have Mainframe in this? Did he say anything? Like, you could have made that Mainframe.
Mainframe talks, but
yeah.
I don't know.
They could have made Mainframe the I'm talking real slow, like that plain talk stuff.
Instead of using Perceptor, they could have used Mainframe or somebody else.
Well, not even that. I'm just saying, like, they could have paid the guy who did Perceptor to do a nice cameo that we would have liked.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then made Mainframe the character who literally was a action master sound like that. The joke would still be there, and you would not have the hard. Someone made a bad decision as long.
Yeah. Well, and I think also it's to underscore that, like, while we have so much reverence for these folks, you know, Marty Eisenberg, Derek J. Wyatt, all that, they're not infallible. And it
might not have been their call either.
You know what? This, I have no evidence to support this, but this feels like a Derek thing to me. Especially because, like Whirl had mentioned, like there's I forget where it is, but there's references to why Perceptor specifically is like this. Like, you know, he carved out his personality circuit to have to download more RAM, basically.
That's actually like a big part of a couple different characters that they do that. That's why they're monotone, and they kind of cut that part of their life out. I mean, down to Samurai, like being kind of monotone d-bags, like they focus one part of their life till that was it. So I get it, but wanting that trope so hard that you kind of screw. First off, I would have rather have had the cameo. I don't know why.
Well, that's the thing, like if you have the cameo, not necessarily use a vocoder on the guy, but you have the guy do the voice direct him to the point of, hey, we want you to actually sound more like a robot. Can you sound like this? Can you sound like that? And he's an accomplished voice actor. He should be able to do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I think, too, it's important to add the context that we didn't have the same view of this in 2007, 2008, whenever they were doing this casting.
It wasn't quite the problem, but
that we have today.
Futurama was the only one who knew what was going on. We did not.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It was definitely not the same context. The context there was probably like, oh, this would be really cool to have plain talk voice a robot. That'd be neat, you know?
Yeah.
That was probably the end of it. Whereas today,
when I remember when that happened on TFW, it was like that show aired and people went nuts because they're like, "That's the funniest thing in the world!" Ha ha ha!
Sure,
so funny. Okay, I hope they do that for everything now. Oh, what?
And in 2009, it was cute. It was a novelty. There wasn't, you know, the Paul Eiding of it aside. It's a cute novelty, a gimmick. You know, that kind of, look what we can do, because, like, you know, who didn't listen to any kind of like podcast or YouTube or something like that didn't have some kind of like plain talk voice guy, you know, that kind of thing, or like soundboard drops or things like that.
Now it's all just Minecraft brain rot.
Right. Well, yeah. And we've reached a terrifying tipping point at a point where, like, it's so damn fascinating to go back to this historical artifact to see kind of like the beginnings of where we are now. It's something. It's an experience, for sure. But yeah, documented, witnessed by the entire Cybfest Northwest organization team. Mr. Paul Eiding not okay with plain talk Perceptor. And that kind of, I think, put him on the trajectory to be kind of like he, more than most voice actors, are kind of like on the forefront of, like, you know, written into contracts, like, you cannot duplicate my voice without my consent, and, you know, AI protections and all of this other stuff. You really kind of a pioneer in that. It's
in general, like, I feel like we need to all, as a society, come together and just say, it's cool for memes. Let's cut it there.
Yep.
Like,
I agree.
We should not be doing this and getting rid of people's existence.
And I think also, voice actors and actresses should have that written into their contracts, that you can't use their voices for things that they're not, no.
Well, so there's another issue, and I think they pulled it, but the Screen Actors Guild also had it where they were going to do it where they could take your likeness and then just use you as like a background. Yeah. Like they'll pay you $500 once, and then they never have to pay for another background.
That's just Hollywood being cheap nowadays.
Yeah. But luckily, someone caught it. And stopped it. Yeah.
Well, and that was part of the strike. That was one of the main things, because like you would hear like folks who worked on like Disney Marvel productions, and like one of the first things you do on your first day of work is you go into this truck. And it's like going through the TSA body scanner at the airport. And they basically do like this like 360 scan of like, your entire body and likeness. And it's like, well, what's this for? Don't worry about it. But, just in case we got to, throw something in later.
So I noticed this like 2 weeks ago. Uh-huh. And I just saw some reels on Instagram that pretty much said, yeah, that's happening. If you use Amazon and have hit yes on all the stuff to do their orders, check and see next time you have you want to order something. And if they have access to your photos, the cats and dogs in the things you're looking for, your cat and dog, might look a lot like yours. And some people are even getting it where pictures of them are on the thing. It's like, oh, you look so good in this shirt. Like,
you have to literally read those terms of service all the time now, because literally we could say anything in this episode, the last episode, or the next episode. Somebody meant, like, we've already made jokes about State Farm and Jake and everything else. I guarantee you, in my feed in an hour and a half from now, there's going to be a State Farm ad, even though I have cerebral palsy and I don't drive. Right. I know State Farm has more than auto insurance, but my point remains,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if we refresh our personal Facebooks here and just to see what rotten things come up conversationally. And it's just like, even at times where I'm not hooked up to a microphone or whatever, dude, I have a microphone in my back pocket at all times.
Exactly. Exactly.
That kind of thing. Michael Andrews, I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot, and if this if it gets too if it gets too hairy,
show then?
Well, let me know, because we've had conversations, like real conversations about AI, like in your day job. There's AI integrations, and I found even in my job where there have been bits of AI used, to the point where I've been no AI, just like all of those, the memes and stuff that we share. But the thing that I've learned is that sometimes that, much like anything else, it's a tool. There are times where it's if I'm stuck on ad copy or something like that, I might dip into the chat GBT and see what it says. But it's never like copying it word for word, but I've seen it used as a starting point. And now I'm at a spot where I don't even know what the ethics of that are anymore. And I will surely have to edit this out, but I know that our production guy uses AI generated voice parts in commercials and shit. It's spooky. Now in this thing, we're not not hiring Paul Eiding type of thing, but it's close. I mean, we're supposed to putting our voice guy out of business, that kind of thing. So it's and that kind of stuff is terrifying. So even now, me, Mike Seibert, I have this weird sense of ethical dread where it's I can mess around with this a little bit for fun, for memes, that kind of thing, or to, help me get unstuck from whatever kind of block I have. But I know from some of our conversations about work and stuff, Michael Andrews, you felt this weight of AI kind of pressing down on you.
Yeah, it's both professional and my side hustle, I guess, is being an author. People are using AI generated text to write whole novels, and then people are buying it for the novelty of it, just because it's like, whoa, I want to see what a robot wrote, and then yeah, in my day job, it's I absolutely can't stand AI because it's truly coming for my job. Like I might be in it a little longer than most people, but like if it keeps progressing the way it is, businesses just want to cut back on money. They're not even the ethics of it are completely out the window, right? Like they're just looking for a cost saving measure. They don't even have to justify it in any way anymore. Really sickens me, I guess. Kind of to your earlier point on bringing it back to Transformers and Perceptor's voice, like that was being used to not necessarily save money. I don't think I don't think it was truly being done as a cost saving measure. It was trying to be done as like, here's this weird facet of a
they
character.
Probably had to pay for the right to use that.
Right.
I would assume.
Right.
So if they did, the question is now, not that we're ever going to get this answer, did that cost more or less than what you would have gotten from Paul Eiding?
Yeah, well, as it's from what it sounds like someone really had an idea to do something that they wanted to do, and they were going to do it no matter what. So I don't think any voice actor was going to get paid at that point.
No,
so I'm not really worried about that part. But it's a mess right now.
First of all, this whole discussion has been like easily one of the most fascinating things we've done on this show. So thank you. Like I had just breezed over that point in my notes. Like, this is so cool that we got this discussion out of it. But the other part too is I was on mute for most of it because I wanted to hear how it all played out, and B, because I can get really fired up about AI.
I know, and that's why I was trying to I'm like, it's your time.
No, no, you're like prodding me.
So let's pull it back, because I can actually bring up a thing. I can do all of those things that the AI would want to do. You want me to do a voice? I can do a voice for you. You want me to draw something? I'll draw something. I'll 3D design it. I will do all of these things. I could use AI to do all of those things faster. But every time that I've used AI, it has been garbage, and I've just had to do it myself, or I paid someone to do it because it is not what I wanted. Yeah. I'm trying to design a toy line right now, and every time that so what I'll do is I'll drop into whatever the Google Bing AI, whatever it is, I'll drop the prompt in there, and then what I get back is literal garbage. And I'm like, this shows me what I don't want to do, if anything. And then I've gone in and I'm doing it myself through other means. Like, if you want to say, I want this character in this person's style, you could probably pull it up there. The real problem is when you say, I am now going to sell this design for money. And because you're taking money, if someone has $100 to spend at a con, and they spend 50 of it on some stupid drawing that some BS prompt came up with, that is the problem. It is an ethical problem more than it is anything else. It is when you, and I try to explain this to people whenever I talk to anyone at a toy company, because I talk to a lot of them, and I'm like, you guys make repaints, you make all these other things, you do it on purpose. Like, I'm going to make this guy a little bit different so that you have to buy another one later. I'm like, so this is what we're running into. If I have $100 to spend this month on that sort of a thing, I'm now going to make choices. And the choices we should make are not to get the AI thing. I think the current voice actress of Daphne on Scooby-Doo, she paid someone like $500 or something to do a drawing for her, and it was AI, and she didn't know until someone pointed it out.
Yeah, Great Delisle Griffin.
Oh, Great Delisle. Yeah. I remember seeing that. That's right.
She was pissed.
Yeah.
And
rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, but that's her job. They could take her job too. Yeah. And that's where I kind of see it is. This is like, if your job is hanging pictures on the wall, and then suddenly a robot comes in and can hang a picture on a wall, that's a problem. Everyone sees that as being a problem. They don't see this digital representation as being a problem when it really, really is. It
very much is.
The one thing that I'm really glad about is that there's a bunch of maker sites that I'm on, and if you do not click the "This was made by AI" button, they ban you for life.
Yeah.
So, and in fact, like DeviantArt has its own little AI thing on it there, and they would rather have it built into theirs so that they can get automatically tagged as such. Yeah, it's all fine to be looking at goofy stuff, but it's when you start taking money out of other people's pockets, you start taking the livelihood. We've all agreed that capitalism is, for some reason, the best way we can go, and then to be like, oh, well, now it's capitalism without any actual payment for anything.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like, hold on a second. Like, what am I supposed to do? Oh, well, you know these things called mines? I hear you play Minecraft. Maybe you could go in that mine and dig up some stuff. Why don't we have robots for this? like
miners.
I want robots.
Mike. Before we let Mr. Andrews go off on his tangent, I found. So here's the thing. This is one of the Puggle formers. This is IDW Rodimus. This is that thing that Callie made that Derek was on the podcast for.
Aww.
So this was made by an actual person. This is not AI generated. My buddy Steve Megatron, who created the Geekcast Radio Network with me, actually 3D printed me Megatron's chair from the Nemesis.
All this.
Which is why I say I want the Nemesis over the Ark, because I don't have the Ark chair yet.
Nice.
So yeah.
Can my Puggle Porg be friends with your Puggle Rodimus?
Sure.
Oh. Yay!
Yeah.
Puggle Porg, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love Callie's Pug. They're so
God. I
cute.
used to have so many of them. I have she did this in 2008 when the BotCon set came out. I have a Shattered Glass version, and he actually has cannons.
You guys gotta. I think we need to. Yeah. Everyone needs to order a Puggle from Callie, and then
if she's taking commit, I'll check in with her. I'll see.
She usually is. I'm friends with her on Facebook, and she was talking the other day about how she found a big bag of the same stuffing she uses for them at a thrift store. I was like, yay!
Good.
Just enough that. Oh, sorry. Just
no. I was just gonna say, Abby, you've been very, very patient. I know you have a really good point. It's your time. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm so sorry, and I might need to leave after this for a little bit. But just on the topic of like the AI art, what you can now do in prompts is prompt a specific artist, and they will do the art in that style, which is, I think, extremely immoral because you're essentially stealing someone's thing that they've taken years of practice on. But that is the bounds for a huge lawsuit at that point. Because now you are stealing, potentially, again, someone's likeness, similar to voice acting. You're stealing the AI is scraping their off the internet and putting it into this very specific prompt. And so there are some people who are in law who have looked at that and are hopefully going to do something about that. Either make it, again, it's hard because AI isn't like regulated very well right now, but to try to get it to where at least they can't steal from specific creators. Because I think that's really messed up. Because if you see someone who has a really specific style and you're like, I just love their art. And all of a sudden you see a new picture that comes up and you're like, oh, it's their art. And it's not. And maybe it's a picture, something they don't actually like. Or like, again, people can use art for nefarious purposes too. There's a huge lawsuit that can go to that. And I do kind of hope, even though it's scary, I do hope that at one point kind of law and regulation do catch up. So again, it can be for funny memes, but it's not taking away from people's jobs, especially creative jobs. Because I use AI, I code, I have to code for my job. If the code isn't running, sometimes I'm like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
But when it comes to people's art, when it comes to people's voices and even people's image, I think that's where it might go a bridge too far.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because I needed to make the distinction between like generative AI and iterative AI, which is like, scanning code and making that stuff quicker. I mean, I understand that, but that's been around for a long time in other names. Like it's become a buzzword now, but the problem is that buzzword has got combined with the generative AI, which is like taking jobs from people. And I guess my final rant on this will just be like, we've made this world so big and we're at least half the people in this country are, trying so hard to make the population bigger exponentially all the time. We're running into, you have a certain obligation to provide jobs for these people. And there needs to be at some point where like, we got to stop taking jobs away from people, try to cause money. We need to enter into this contract of, we want all these people to be alive. We need to give them means. We've created capitalism. We have to have a way for them to support themselves. And the layers of ethics on AI are just chilling. Like how many different ways it's bad.
Yeah. I'd like to plug in. I like to draw on my iPad. I'd like to plug in Procreate. They're very anti-AI, which is why I ended up buying it. But there are a lot of places or like art platforms that have been very much like, no, we are having a human-based platform because it's worked for us for the last how many ever years. We're not going to change that and make it all AI. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
No, that's great stuff.
So there's a set of art that you could see, and it's like The Simpsons, but as Transformers. Have you ever seen that?
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's from an artist called Thumbs One, and he did a whole set of these Simpsons Transformers, and I thought this guy was hilarious. But in looking at it, he actually just takes existing. He essentially is a tracer.
Your mother's a tracer!
He traces it and recolors it. He takes Bart Simpson's head, copies it, sticks it on another thing. Technically, that's still an art form. I mean, you could cut it out of paper and glue it on too. It's the same idea.
Just ask Spanky.
It's not tracing, all right? I add depth and shading to give the image more definition. Only then does the drawing truly take shape.
And he's like that. So this is the thing. I thought this guy was super cool. You know, hey, this is a real cool designs that he does, and I followed him. And then one day, out of nowhere, I see one of my friends post on this thing, hey, my friend made that drawing that's in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tag them? The dude blocked him.
Oh,
wow.
So you hit a point where even without AI, there's still some douchebaggery going on here.
Yeah.
So anyway, I came up with this project. And this is the file is free online. The guy doesn't usually care if you do stuff with it. It's just he doesn't want you selling them. It says no commercial, no mass production. But I made this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I took the bumblebee that he made. And stuck a Bart Simpson head on it, and now I've got this guy. So
now the true question is it Nancy Cartwright or is it Dan Galvazan?
Nancy Galvazan. Yeah. So it's just one like a little project that I've been working on is making the Simpsons. This one I actually made way too big, so this guy might get sold somewhere. But I have so it's one of those deals where it's like, you know, who's stealing from who on what, and I really wasn't too happy about that, but I'm going to be making like a whole goofy Simpsons thing that I'm kind of throwing out for Instagram. So as I said, it doesn't even matter if it's AI. Stealing someone else's stuff is not cool to begin with. And proper attribution is a thing that everyone needs to start doing, because who cares if you know if that guy literally all he had to do was say, oh, hey, tagging this person drew this. It was like what is that Hasbro show with the holograms on their chest? That's
Visionaries.
Visionaries. It was the Merlin or whatever character from that she had drawn, and he had taken it, not realizing that it was just a small artist, and thought it was like literally Hasbro art.
Oh, wow.
So it's okay to steal that, right? Yeah. And Hasbro's even been caught doing it where they take literal photography and just make it look like an animation, and then people are like, hey, that's the exact pose of the thing that I did.
Yeah.
What the hell? Like, and it's a problem. Down to, there's a file that's about 25 years old, and it's literally arc panels.
Yep.
The guy who made those said this is free for the community, not for
sale
Hasbro to use. And Hasbro used it like a couple of years ago on
in live streams and stuff. I remember that, and I remember that guy posting up about it, and I remember that like that dude even got like backlash from it. And it's like, dude, I ain't trying to like, you know, chase clout or whatever. I'm just letting you know that like
I did that. Yeah, that's mine.
Or is using it without attribution.
You can actually still go to Dollar Tree, I think it is. No, it's Five Below. They have the swords.
The sword. The sword and the axe.
The sword and the axe. That a guy literally was like, hey, that's the design I used. What the hell? That wasn't Hasbro. That was whatever company licensed it. But still, it's BS.
Still,
yeah. Even so. Well, thrilling discussion, folks. That's one for the books. If you have strong opinions about the use of AI for either commercial or artistic purposes and or crediting artist attribution, right into the mailbag, 2mikes2furious@gmail.com.
We now return to the Transformers.
And with that, as Michael Andrews likes to say, back to the show. We have emerged from the flashback, and basically we're talking about where Bumblebee has transwarped off to. Bulkhead figures out that he has Bumblebee has like this thing. Let me check my notes. It's a plasma dynamic thruster. Which has transwarped Bumblebee off across the galaxy. Now, Bulkhead, his solution to this problem is to use the retrieval beacon generator that they also recovered from the mine. And again, we're going full Star Trek here with the amount of technobabble. It's like,
I was just gonna say, I love it.
Yeah, I mean, man, harmonic frequencies. Oh man, we inverted polarities. And this is kind of like more escalation of key legislation where, Bulkhead's got the component and Ratchet's like, let me take a look at it. And Sari immediately is like, nah, give me it, and jams her key in it. Just immediately just ramming the key into things.
Phrasing. Boom.
Not without even a consideration. Like Ratchet hasn't even looked at the damn thing.
Yeah, just up to their old antics again. And this is where that kind of like actual obsolete junk language comes from. Like Ratchet brings it up and he says the line,
"If anyone needs me, I'll be in the corner rusting with the other obsolete junk."
That kind of broke my heart when he said that.
Oh, he's so sullen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a Michael Andrews tactic from way back of the pitiful grandpa routine.
Arms folded.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So I guess nobody needs me.
So meanwhile, back on Omega Supreme, this is where Megatron uses the stasis cuffs to kind of hotwire Omega Supreme and kind of try to jumpstart him to get him going again. And then basically, and I couldn't tell watching this again. It's like if this is a joke or if it's what Megatron intended, the headlights pop out. And like I can't tell if it's just like all that's what Megatron is able to accomplish, like instead of like bringing on weapon systems or whatever, because like, but you would also think that headlights would be useful. So I don't know if maybe the joke just kind of zipped over my head that time.
Well, yeah, because the headlights are what attracts the Rock Lords. We can go into those too, but that's what ultimately gets them to escape this scene, and it is played off like a joke. Like, oh, fuck, I couldn't. I crossed the wrong wire. I just got the headlights, but then it ends up working out to his favor. So. I like it both ways. I like it as a joke, but I also want the Megatron in this series to always be this constant planning, constant professional. I didn't want him to make a mistake, but at the same time, great bit. How could you pass it up?
Yeah. So we see the headlines on this Rock Lord, as you said, that's what we'll be calling them going forward. This thing kind of like turns into this horrific, very Derek J. Wyatt looking monster thing, like straight out of the first episode, like that grub monster, like that slime beast that we've seen before. Like incredible character design on this Rock Lord, but basically like it goes to attack the ship. Right about then, turns out they're all Rock Lords, and it kind of reminded me a little bit. In a crooked kind of way, like the amount of sound waves that we saw in Human Error, where it's like, oh, we're just tracking this one to the source, and we just got this one sound wave. Oh snap, we got all the sound waves. Maybe it's
a bunch of repaints.
Exactly. It's an army of Agent Smiths, if you will, for
and I will.
But then, like, so to the point Alpha Magnus made earlier about the tethering between Bumblebee and Omega through the transwarp. Omega transwarps away only for Bumblebee to transwarp in. So it's like, Omega goes out, Bumblebee goes in. And I did not catch this the first time through. I didn't realize that the creature just straight up eats Bumblebee. I must have like had turned my head or something like that. Cause like I was going through my notes and I'm like, swallows the tiny Autobot in one single gulp. I'm like, what? I'm like, oh, sure enough. And of course that resolves later because that's
resolves later.
Yeah, exactly.
In the end, that's all Bumblebee. He's gone now.
The end.
Right.
You know what? In this episode, where like time and again we're just establishing stakes, where you begin the episode by crossing off celebrity stunt cast Rodimus there, and you've already crossed off Blurr, and
Why
it's
not?
like,
Let's add Bumblebee to the bingo sheet.
And it's not out of the realm for going into season 3 of something that they're going to axe a bunch of characters to bring out new toys. So, I mean, like, they're playing on all of that.
Oh, no, it's 1986 all over again.
Wheeljack, get out of here.
As I suddenly just sink into, like, that Vietnam meme with, like, the transparent helicopters and stuff. It's like, oh my goodness. So from there, we are back on Earth, where Bulkhead has figured out how to lock onto B, and he zaps him back. But turns out with B comes this incredible Rock Lord materializes, and I'm a real dummy because like I did not put 2 and 2 together about like, well, because like Bumblebee is now in this dude's tummy, to where like, of course, if Bumblebee gets transwarped back, it stands to reason whatever's around him. I guess
this whole thing is like a big fishing metaphor, right? Like you have Bumblebee's the lure, it's brightly colored, pops into space, the big fish eats it, then like we're reeling him back. He's kind of like stuck on the line.
Hot Rod didn't get cosmic rusted. He's just fishing with Daniel. That's all.
Yeah.
In heaven. Oh no, in robot heaven, where Sam goes to get the Matrix or whatever happens in that movie. Dude goes to robot heaven. Anyway, I don't even know where that came from. But one thing that I thought was cool is like, when you do like weird alien creatures and they have like allergies to earthbound things. I love that this thing is bothered by the sun, and of course that's what sends him immediately into a rampage. Spits at the sun's hurtful rays and goes charging off. But it's around this point that Optimus figures out that it's Bumblebee within the creature, and the Autobots give chase.
See, I was going to say, I didn't even catch on that there was any sort of like allergy to the sun going on. I just really related to this character that was just like mad at the sun, like just appears on Earth and is like, it's like that to me, much more.
I love it. It's so mad.
Yeah, you can keep doing that to the sun. It's going to come down on you like in Super Mario 3.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Too much of that level.
Yeah, right. So I think it's around this point where they realize where Bumblebee is, and they realize the path to getting B back is through this horrid creature. But once you know it, as the bots are gearing up, you see Ratchet click clack sporting his EMP generator, which Prowl really it kind of upsets him.
Very much so.
Your EMP generator. You haven't brought that into battle since you got it back from lockdown.
Yeah, I mean, that's another use of similar to the key, just like ratcheting up the tension. Wink. That's like the fact that he wants to, use this and then later use the key, like how dire things are.
Yeah, so we get a little bit of a bit here where this is kind of interesting, because this is kind of like a call back, call forward type of thing, because much like before, Sari is protesting that Optimus wants her out of the fight, to hang back. You don't want any part of this, and she protests basically like, hey man, I got superpowers now.
What are you talking about? I'm a robot hero now too,
You're not ready.
You don't know that. For all you know, I could kick your skid plate.
You know, it's like I can hold my own. You know, who knows what I could do, and that's the phrasing that gets Optimus's attention. And he's, you know, given what's about to happen, he's incredibly wise in this situation. He's like, and that is the point.
We don't know what you can or can't do yet, or how much punishment you can take.
We don't know what's going to happen, so, you know, for goodness sake, just sit this one out for once. You know, that kind of thing. You get some top tier Dadimus Prime here.
I'll start Sari lawyering again.
Here we go.
This is her best friend is in danger, right? Yeah. And that's an incredibly frustrating position to be in. But also, like, she has not really gotten to experience any positive sides to finding out that she's a robot. So now she's like, oh my god, like, this could be a good thing. I can finally, like, I can help now. Look, I've got, you know, I've got my Iron Man hands. Let me do stuff. And you know, from her point of view, he's like, she, in her mind, she has solved this problem of I cannot fight because I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right. And Optimus is still like, no, you can't. And he's right. I'm not saying he's not. But, you know, from her point of view, this has got to be the most frustrating thing in the world, is that, like, oh my god, things are happening again, but I can finally help now because I've got, you know, maybe there is a positive side to some of this, right? Mm-hmm. And being told, no, I need you to sit back again. That's got to be so frustrating for her.
Right.
So
this has to be like the longest building storyline in this whole show, right? Like, Sari not feeling like she can do enough or not being let do anything. Like, now is her time, right? Like, this has been building. They've kind of forced this on her just by how many times they've told her no over the course of 3 seasons.
Right. Well, and she's had bouts of capability. Like, you know, she defeated the Space Barnacles. She fought back the Constructicons. You know, it's like, so, and it's interesting also with this dynamic with Optimus, because it is kind of like a weird push and pull. It's like a 2 steps forward, 2 steps back type of thing. How, like, their dynamic seems to be in constant state of reset. Like, every time there's progression, there's also a drawback. And here, I mean, again, we're about to see the culmination of it, but I think right before that, yeah, this is kind of like the culmination of the Sari Optimus dynamic. Like, oh, you know, we're afraid for your safety. I can take care of myself. You know, that kind of thing.
So here it is, the big upgrade moment, baby.
We are here, and you know, you want to talk about climactic moments for this, not just this episode, but for this show. I like that it's kind of like, we're getting ready to round out part 2. We've already had part 1, part 3 is still coming, but it's kind of like this apex hinge point. This is a real turning point in this entire story, where basically we have seen time and again that Sari Sumdak's solution is to use the key to upgrade. It's like, you want sound waves, that's how you get sound waves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, just time and time again, the solution to her problems is to use the key to upgrade. So of course it makes all of the thematic sense that finally she turns the key on herself.
It actually shows incredible restraint that she hasn't done it yet. I mean, like,
that would be the first thing you think of,
right? Right. Like, that's her first, like, she sees a fucking candy machine. She's like, I'm going to stick my key in it.
So this is also, this sequence is A, beautiful, B, it is also another, let's toss ACOM aside and put Toei in here, or whatever, whoever did it. But we get a 100% magical girl transformation.
Yay!
And I love it. I love the fighting evil by moonlight, winning love by daylight. Like, we get the whole thing. Like, A to Z. This is had to be Derek. Like, he just is that guy.
Yeah, most definitely.
If anyone else has anything else to say, I have something to say directly after the transformation, the upgrade.
Sure. Well, I guess the only thing else I wanted to say in a preamble is that, you know, the theme of mild body horror continues, because, like, you know, so she's, you know, as far as we've seen the entire time, she's wearing clothes. You know, it's like she's just like a normal ass girl. to the point where like, the one time where she like skinned her elbow, turns out whoops is a robot, that kind of thing. And it's like, is that a function of the the clothes or skin, or to what extent that injury was? We litigated that in the previous episode, but here where like these panels push out and slide open, and I'm just like, wait a sec, that's just the front of your dress there. What is happening?
I would have loved it if she like went to put it in and then had to put it in again, like Ultra Magnus did in the movie.
Oh yeah, it bobbles. But yeah, it is alarming that. But and then of course you get like this very pronounced allspark key shaped keyhole, for her to put in the allspark key. I took it real slow there because I'm like phrasing.
Yeah.
phrasing.
Her spark chamber.
I'm like,
Do we have anybody else on
looking
the
for a word that begins with I, Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening? Are you okay?
No!
Now, I believe there was some mention of holes.
Phrasing. Boom.
That's the spirit.
Shut up.
Yeah. Trying to avoid actual watch lists here. Jesus Christ. But basically, like, so she turns the key on herself and has this, again, spectacular magical girl transformation. I love that we just go full, like all the way, just unabashedly, like this is what it is. And so she emerges, she's taller and is sporting a pretty sweet set of combat armor.
Rise, Saramis Prime.
Not for nothing. Like I don't know if it's here. Like, I mean, I wanted to talk to Michael Andrews about this like a month ago when we did the Christmas episode. I'm like, I want to talk about Sari's character design, and he's like, wait, my friend, wait.
He was right for that.
But like,
I didn't really have any context to talk about you. It wasn't like an age up thing. I couldn't get into it without being like,
it's like on Fresh Prince when suddenly little Nicky's a big kid now.
I want to say real quick, as a viewer listening to the Christmas episode, frustrating experience.
It really was.
You're welcome.
No, it was really, really good. But hearing Mike being like, can we talk about the and Michael being like, no, just wait, because I was sitting there too. I was like, oh, they're not gonna do it. It was very will they, won't they?
Yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are. It's time. It's time.
So I am nothing if ratcheting up tension. So
what I had to say was this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because there is a slice of time that is captured here that not a lot of people know about unless you were A, somewhat talking to Derek J. Wyatt, and B, were huge into Transformers between 2008 and 2009. There's a slice of time where if you were in the fandom and you were following it, there was one thing that no one would shut up about. And it is what they based Sari's design on. Plop it in here. It is known as the Figma Drossel. If you're unfamiliar with this, Derek had one. I'm sure everyone at that time who was anywhere near a Japanese anything. Look at Mike down there. So this was also used to make numerous upon numerous.
It's a real Nights into Dream situation there. Freaking Sega Saturn and shit.
Yeah, but people would make this into it, and it was used to satisfy both ways. Like, she was inspired by this. Derek J. Wyatt designed essentially Sari's outfit for this purpose, or whoever designed it, someone did. But then people would make that guy, and I showed you both of them. The artist is, of course, that bad lamprey. If you look at any of his other stuff, it's amazing, to the point where then people start making little jokes like this. You can post all of these wherever you want, but you can still buy these. They're $45 on eBay. Like, it is Figma as a normal it's SH Figuarts.
Oh yeah.
But Figma Drossel, the first one, there's also another one called Drossel Fireball, which looks a little different. But people use these all the time. And it was one of those things where you could not go on Transformer Twitter for more than 5 minutes without seeing this stupid thing everywhere. And G1 Mike is nodding his head. It was ridiculous, and
they
only
were
some
everywhere.
Only some of us know it. But when Sari goes, time for an upgrade, boom, there's like an orangish yellow gold Drossel there. You're just like, what the hell? Like, you didn't even hide it, bro. We were all just amazed. And then, of course, I think people might have, and this was the weird thing, it was one of those like dual things. People might have immediately taken their Drossels and made Saris out of them.
Probably.
It was bizarre how fast it was happening. Like, if you look at TFW's Radicons custom board, for the day of the release of this, like, look at the 2 days after that, there's probably a Sari-ized Drossel on that thing. And it's crazy because you never hear of it anymore. Like, I think they came out with this second one a few years later. It's just amazing that you didn't just, it was such a slice in time that you kind of just had to be there. But yeah, if anyone wants one, they're not terribly expensive. I thought they were going to be like hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be my next purchase.
Yeah. So buy all those before this airs.
Exactly. Yeah, because you might end up with a triple takeover effect where, like,
correct. It's entirely possible.
It's like, why is Bonotech so expensive? Oh fuck, because they did an episode on it. God damn it. Now I can't get classics anymore.
Yeah, but it's just neat to have. Like, it's just a slice in time. Hey, in fact, I saw one. This is the funnier part, is I've been waiting for 2.5 years now. You guys have been doing this?
I'm like that, yeah.
I saw one right when you guys put your first video out. I saw it at a convention, and I was like, I have to mentally burn that into my soul. Yeah. So that's why I messaged. I was like, this is really the reason I want to do it, because if it had gone past and I listened to this episode and no one had mentioned this stupid figure, I was gonna be mad.
Yeah,
I was literally just gonna flip a table. I'm like, this is literally what it was, because it was so beautiful. And then I also wanted to mention, prior to that, this also kind of hits you with the do you remember, did anyone watch Energon?
No.
Oh yeah.
Kicker was the most obnoxious character in the world.
Sure.
They just did a full Kicker on her and somehow did it right. It was like a second chance at that character, to the point where when they just did that video for like the Xth anniversary, I can't remember what it was.
Studio Trigger. Yeah, the bump of chicken.
There is a solid scene where Kicker and her are both kicking in the air, and she's doing the kicker kick.
Yeah, she's doing the kicker pose, basically.
Yeah, and it's so funny.
Pretty fucking cool.
Yeah,
and pretty sorry.
It is pretty sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, you're stuck with Kicker.
Yeah.
I actually loved Kicker, but turns out that, like, I just didn't watch the episodes where he was super annoying. I only watched the ones where he was competent, so whatever. I didn't watch all of Energon. I just caught it here or there. But that's essentially it. It was just I had to let people rebirth the Drossel into it, and now I got to figure out how I'm going to get $45 so I can buy one before they go. Hopefully we don't triple.
Was it a custom that I'm thinking of, or was it a canceled BotCon figure? Or something else that was like a Sari using that like Windblade Air Razor.
Yeah, that was supposed to be one of the BotCon ones, and I don't think it got made.
Man, I would love to have one of those.
I don't think it was Windblade. Was it?
What am I thinking?
It might have been that first Windblade. I know what you're talking about. I'll look it up. But that's all I had on the subject.
But it was official. It wasn't. I'm not thinking of just like a custom that made the rounds.
It was semi-official. It was one of those things where like they're like, "Here, this is an idea we have for it," and then it never came to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
I would kill for a good Sari figure.
Flashback to like a year ago or more, and Alpha Magnus is being like, I want to be on when Sari first transforms, and I'm like, I don't know how to tell Mike Seibert this. Like, I don't know. I'll just tell him when he's supposed to be on. I don't know how to explain that situation happening.
He wants to be on for a very specific reason, but you're not allowed to know.
I did similar to Mike. I said, I want to come on during TransWarped, but I don't want to come on at the same time everyone else wants to come on. I want to come on for a very specific, and it was the thing we're about to talk about.
Yeah. Well, and even then, no, I mean, you were even more explicit about Whirl. You were like, I want to be on TransWarped, but not for the thing that everyone else does. It's like, because you had sniffed out all the Rodimus stuff, because like, I'd had conversations with all of you saying like, yeah, everybody wants to be on for this thing. In fact, even me and Michael Andrews at one point were just kind of like, there was almost a degree of exasperation with it. It's just like, well, we still have 3 whole episodes. This is like the first like 90 seconds. And like, and Michael Andrews was trying to be so careful with it too. And he's just like, yeah, there's that thing that happens that folks are going to want to talk about. And I'm just like, and at one point, I don't remember how recently this was, but I'm just like, okay, I know that Judd Nelson voices Rodimus, and I know he shows up in this episode. Can we not? It's like, let's just acknowledge that so we can move forward. Because I mean, that's one of those fan osmosis things that, like, again, there was no way that was going to be a surprise for me. But stuff like Cyclonus, that was a freaking surprise. That kind of thing. Braun was a surprise, but we've already litigated all of that. So.
I just posted in the chat. There's if you look it up, it's Transformers animated human figures. There's a company, Impossible Toys. They're the ones that made the brick Blurr, and then they also made human figures. These are they're Gumbies. Let's be honest, they're Gumby figures. If you can't see Gumby up there, but that's a company that make those. I would be nice if Hasbro would make some actual human figures, but we'll be beyond that. On that, I am going to ghost. I got stuff to do. It's been a few. It's been a pleasure.
You've really put in your time, and you've waited very patiently, and you got your moment. So like,
well, I had stuff to say beforehand. After this, it is very much a great story. I love everything that happens for the rest of the thing. We de-MacGuffining all of it. It all makes me happy. We've kryptonited. We've got it so that we're no longer relying on the MacGuffin. And aside from that, it's great, and have a good one.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
Peace.
All right. Well, now that we got rid of that guy, I mean, it's coming. It's coming for all you. It's just it's not impossible. It's inevitable. So we're almost there. So we go back to Omega Supreme again. And again, I get here's a weird thing that I want to point out. It's like, much like with the flashbacks, it seems like there is a lot of repetition and a lot of interstitial intercutting type of thing. It's like we're going in and out of the flashback. We're going back and forth with the Decepticons and Omega. It is a large, expansive story where all of your characters get to be all over the place. Everybody gets something to do, but man, when you talk about it in this context, it kind of accidentally feels a little bit repetitive, because it's like I'm looking at my notes trying to get to the part I want to get to, and I'm like, okay, so we're back on Omega Supreme, and Megatron is back on his bullshit, and like he's still trying to figure out how to control him. But I like that Megatron's scheme is to use the Autobots' greatest weapon against them. And I like how there's the sting of defeat in Megatron's voice. Like, he's still pissed off that Project Omega was so successful, and that, like, he really wants to pay it back to the Autobots in the only way that he can, theatrically.
And now the power of Omega Supreme is mine to command.
Yeah.
Whirl, you look like you had something.
This whole, like, ongoing, like, C-plot with Megatron and Starscream is one of my favorite portrayals of their dynamic ever.
Sure.
They're so divorced here. He's just. I love Starscream being like, "What are you gonna do? Are you gonna hotwire Omega Supreme?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am gonna hotwire Omega Supreme, and you're gonna help."
Nagging me.
Fuck you.
Yeah, exactly. To the point where like he straight up takes Starscream's head and just like jams it into the console. Because like I think like Starscream is like taunting him. He's like, "Oh well, don't you wish you had like an Allspark fragment or something like that?" And it's like, Allspark fragment, you might say.
I do have one of those actually.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like I've talked so extensively about how anytime I see Starscream in combat with the Allspark fragment showing, I keep thinking about the fragility of it. It's like, dude, that guy is one bad fall away from just being like lights out forever. Ironically enough, given the cartoonishness of the dynamics and the action, I don't feel that same dread here because his head is now a rubber super ball and it just like bounces all over the place. And like, I don't think anything's going to knock that loose at this point. But regardless, yeah, he takes Starscream's head, jams it in there and kickstarts Omega. So yeah, so here we are. We made it, kids. We are back in New Detroit. The Autobots are trying to figure out how to defeat this Rock Lord monster without hurting Bumblebee. And then here we go. It's like, so we've already seen Sari revealed as upgraded, and she's got like the battle mask and all of that. And then we get to literally the reason why Whirl is on this podcast with us. and this reference goes all the way back to the Mailbag Mixer live stream and the Q&A that I put out. I put out like this form for people to, what are you looking forward to? And Whirl puts in all caps, knife hands, exclamation point. Yeah. And I'm like, fresh from watching Transformers 1. So I'm like, oh, knife hands. That's pretty fun. And then I'm sorry to throw you under the bus, my friend Michael Andrews, but like, he's like, oh, knife hands. It's oh shit. like I can
verbatim.
I can like the realization. It's pretty funny knowing what we all know now, but yeah, so it's like she has another power up, like, it's all knives and blades this time. She's got like these bitchin' laser skates. She's got like these sword hands, and we are off to the races.
Sorry?
But she looks so different.
Sorry. What are you doing?
Don't sweat it, Prime. I got this one covered.
So yeah, so she is off to the races, and she is making short work of this Rock Lord, with like a variety of spinning attacks from like, the rocket skates and the knife skates or whatever, the knife hands, the sword hands, and this energy hammer that she can just conjure. Again, hammer legislation. Michael Andrews is here for that all day long. Like, I gasped. Like, I was just like, whoa. At this point, I've seen teenage cyborg Sari Sumdac, so I know what she looks like. I did not know she had knife hands. I did not know that she had laser skates, and I surely didn't know that she could conjure an energy hammer. I'm just like, overwhelmed with like all of these with all these details, but basically like, she is again making short work of this monster thing, and Bumblebee is freed. It's like Bumblebee is obviously taken aback.
What happened? Sorry? Bumblebee, you're okay. And you're different.
And I think the thing that we'll continue to talk about as we get into part 3, it's like this changes their dynamic forever, because like the thing that we've talked about in every context of every episode is like, especially now seeing what Bumblebee looks like in Soundwave's Matrix, I know now that Bumblebee is canonically an 8-year-old boy also. So it's like, this whole time they've just been a pair of Dennis the Menace asshole 8-year-olds together, and now they're not. So there's a bit of a bittersweet heartbreak here as their relationship radically changes forever. But basically, like, I think what happens is, like, Sari defeats the monster, Bumblebee is freed, and everybody else is kind of like, whoa, buddy. I mean, sure, thanks for the save, but I don't know if this is okay or not. But Bumblebee is the one that sticks up for her and is immediately like,
you gotta admit, she's good.
Like, really lays it on thick, because again, what do we know about Bumblebee? He's all about, like, upgrades and turbo boosters and all of that other stuff. So he sees this as an opportunity for them to kind of like level up together and kind of be on somewhat more equal footing than maybe they were otherwise. But it goes real bad real quick, because I mean, first of all, you've got the hubris of Sari Sumdac, a little too high on her own supply. Quippy is all fuck. Just a quip machine here. But then suddenly something starts to go wrong, and she is out of control here.
One thing I love about this scene is that Sari rushing in and saving Bumblebee while everyone else is discussing how we can do this more carefully is the most Bumblebee thing ever. Like, that's such a nice moment for her. But then at the same time, it comes to a culmination where they both kind of learn a lesson that we haven't seen them learn in the last 2 seasons at all. Like, they're finally seeing what the problem is with that, even though they have this moment of like, oh, that was really cool. That was so awesome. Look what we can do. Quippy.
Yeah.
They both get their lesson taught to them kind of at the same time in different ways.
The key.
What's happening to me?
That can't be good.
We realize that it's the key that is overloading Sari. Like, the thing's just sticking out of her chest there. And, Ratchet's like, that damned key.
The key's power must have caused an overload. She can't control the upgrades.
Help me!
It's like, again, the source of all of his problems. So, of course, the plan is to get the key at one point. And this is kind of like a weird call forward to the Christmas episode where Prowl, his solution to all of his problems. Oh,
I may be able to control Sari's circuitry by utilizing my Cyber Ninja processor over matter technique.
And it does not work. So, and I think that was, if you go back and listen to that Christmas episode, it is kind of funny to where I'm like, why is Bumblebee giving Prowl shit about the processor over matter technique? Because it's undefeated. Not this time, friend. And it's like, and we see it not work again later. So I kind of understand Bumblebee's skepticism in kind of reverse future retrospect.
100% justified.
Yeah. So, but basically they try to stop her, and basically she is, I wrote in my notes, she's emulated Wolverine's berserker attack with the adamantium claws. Got it.
Should I call you Logan, Weapon X?
No, Wolverine, snickety snoring.
What he's doing is imitating Wolverine's berserker attack with his adamantium claws.
Timmy, represent. Come on.
Because it's like, she's just a whirling dervish, literally just spinning around, chopping stuff up. She like leans up against a mailbox at some point and blows it up. So like, we were, oh God, what was it? The beginning of part 1 with like Spidor and they're like, napalm,
napalm fire things.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting to, like, we could compared it to Gambit's powers a little bit. You see the same thing here. She leans up against a mailbox, like anything she touches just suddenly like explodes.
Now she's charging everything she touches.
But it's like Gambit and Rogue combined, right? Like she can't touch anything, but if she does, it makes it explosive. It's kind of cool.
Yeah. It's here because like Prowl is trying to do process over matter. It's not working, and Bumblebee rushes in. Prime tells him to stay back because Sari is out of control. Bumblebee's hubris. He's got this. He can be the one to connect with his friend, and nope, he ends up with a knife to the chest for his troubles.
Knife hands.
Knife hand to the chest.
Knife hands. And
there's knife to the chest. There's hand to the chest. This is knife hand to the chest.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like, you know, classic storytelling. This type of thing, because it lingers for a long ass time, and as if that the visual isn't upset enough, because you know Bumblebee knows he's stabbed. And then after that, there's another concussive blast. Bumblebee is hurled across the street, tumbles over a couple times, and when he's shown there ain't no light in his eyes. This dude is dead. And to be continued. Like that is again, horrifying imagery, and again, profoundly upsetting for our characters here. So now that the scene is properly set, I will now yield my time to the delegation from the Senate from Naboo.
So this is I've been waiting for this since Two Mikes Too Furious started.
I would have waited an eternity for this.
But this TransWarped is brutal, just like across the board. It is a wild series of episodes. The reason I am so into Transformers and robots in general is because of the storytelling themes that we get out of robots, the things that we get to explore through a new lens. Robot storytelling has a lot of things with, you know, introspection and identity, and so much of it is you know, religion and, you know, what does it mean to be a human and things like this. And without pun is intended here, there's a lot of stories of transformation. But I mentioned this several episodes back when I sent Mike like an angry Discord message halfway through listening to an episode, and he was like, "Can I put that in?" I was like, "Yeah." And but Transformers Animated, by nature of being for kids, has a lot of coming of age themes, and this is absolutely when it's at its most blatant and like pushed to the forefront. There's no getting around this being a coming of age moment for Sari. She is moving from being a child to a teenager, and it's very, very in your face. But this like is bringing everything that she has been experiencing for the past like not even just TransWarped, but the past like several episodes, finding out all these things about herself and her family and her dad and you know, her found family, and this like all these things that she's feeling, and and now she doesn't have any control, and she's hurting her friends, and she can't do anything about it, and now she needs to like rely on these people to save her and help her. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think this is my favorite scene, and I think all of Transformers Animated, and it's this end of episode 2, you know, beginning of episode 3 is Sari, and she, the thing I brought up earlier, where she was like, I can't help. I've never been able to like help properly. I can do my Home Alone stuff. I can you know, do my smarts and my fun little spunky kid sidekick stuff, but I can't get in there and start fighting. And now she can, and this is so cool for her. And then it all goes wrong so fast, and it is like, it's such a like bam 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 of all these different emotions for her and for us as viewers, and you know, for kids that are watching this too, because this is cool. Like she got this cool magical girl transformation, and she's doing her Spider-Man quips the whole time, and she's, you know, beating the shit out of the bad guys, and it's really cool and fun when that viewer proxy character is getting to do things like this. That's such a cool experience for the kids. But then she stabs her best friend in the chest, and that's like, whoa. And that's another one of those moments where the parent walking past is like, hey, are you watching some Transformers? Oh shit, what's going on in Transformers?
Yeah.
Remember, kids, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, and don't play with knives. But no, I think this is just so cool, and I think that, like, you know, the story they're telling here being kind of forcefully brought to the front here with the coming of age stuff is huge. And I cannot wait to hear your guys' takes on it.
Well, I really like that take on it, and it's such a play on what you think's going to happen. Like, there's a version of this where you get the 35-second long transformation sequence of her, and you get you get the knife hands and all these upgrades and it looks so amazing. Like that could have been the finale and everyone's jaw drops, holy shit, to be continued, right? The big hero moment. And instead they like showed that it went wrong and, someone got killed, and they played out that death for so long in an episode where so many people had already died. Like it had so much gravity. So we're all playing on what we think kids shows are going to show. And then it turns out to be this really like young adult into adulthood moment.
I feel very similar. I have never been a 7 to 8-year-old girl, and nor have I been a tween / teen / however Sari is supposed to present it at this point. Those are life experiences that I have not had, but I have it on good authority that those are tumultuous times. And I think when you can use superhero science fiction as allegory for those violent and potentially horrifying changes, and just the confusion of what folks go through. I think again, it's just brilliant analogy there. It's like, I don't think it would have the same impact if this was, say, like Spike Witwick. He's just like, oh, I'm in Autobot X now. Dad. That kind of thing. And I mean, the show puts in the work with the Sari character, because she, regardless of her setbacks, you throw in with her. You buy off on her struggles. Now, whether you like her as a character or not might not be here or there for this component of the discussion. But regardless, for this character, for this moment, for this type of story, it has to be this character, and it works brilliantly. It's and again, it's heart-wrenching, it's heartbreaking. And it does this magic trick where, you get like that emotional backlash from like, holy shit, Sari's going to be part of the team now. And it's, and big hero moments like we had already said. But when you do your chapter 2 cliffhanger, your Empire Strikes Back chapter, it makes sense that it ends on this note of peril, as opposed to some other type of cliffhanger where it's like, Luke gets his hand chopped off, find out Vader's his father, and, hand gets frozen, take away by Boba Fett. It ends up on such a down note.
I mean, that's what life is, a series of down endings. All Jedi had was a bunch of Muppets.
But no, I know it was initially intended to be a 70-minute, mega movie or whatever, but this does have very much like middle chapter syndrome, in that the stakes are raised and the story gets darker. So that's I guess my thesis on the Sari Sumdac Magic Girl transformation.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, a couple other notes since we're here. I'm gonna go back for seconds. There's because there was a couple other things we didn't necessarily talk about that's relevant here. Talking about the character design, obviously, I love the aesthetic with the blades and lights and laser skates and all that stuff presenting in that teal. Like the color scheme is really cool on the cyborg Sari here. But the other thing I wanted to mention, that this is, we talk about spoilers that I sometimes can't avoid, other times I find out through osmosis. I don't know how, through my exposure to the fandom or exposure through my friends or even the exercise of doing this podcast, how is it that I was able to go watch a goddamn Transformers 1? I have seen that movie, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times at this point. And of course, knife hands and all that other stuff.
Orion, look! I have knife hands!
How is that talk about call back, call forwards. How is it that this was not spoiled for me? I didn't know that she had knives. I didn't know that she had laser blade skates and stuff like that. That's at a time where there aren't as many surprises ahead for me. This was a pleasant one, but like I'm going to attempt to share my screen here because I posted about this while I was watching it. Something went wrong. Why doesn't? Oh, here
It's
we go.
because Sari Sumdak is unappreciated. That's why.
Yeah.
And I'll say to answer your question before you go and show us the screen.
Yeah,
I'll say it's probably because, unfortunately, in 2024, 2025, I don't think a lot of people, Transformers fans or not, I don't think a lot of people are talking about this show. So when it happened in Transformers 1, I don't think a lot of people outside of us Transformers fans that already knew about it, except for yourself that you didn't know about it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think people would, not that they wouldn't remember, because we all remember this happening, but I don't think anyone just going to see Transformers 1 who wants to get into because Transformers 1 is, you guys have done a whole legislation on that already.
Yeah.
We did our own commentary on it, but I'll say Transformers 1 is for the fan that started last year going forward. It's not for anyone. I mean, yes, there are homages and everything else, fine, whatever. But like, nobody was expecting knife hands to be the thing that linked Transformers 1 and Transformers Animated.
Yeah, exactly. So I posted about this when I watched it. I was like, now watching TransWarped Part 2 in parentheses, like, how did that manage to never come up in any discussions I've had with folks about Transformers 1? And it's a gif of, again, B127, the knife hands. Oh, hey, I got knife hands.
Knife hands? I have knife hands!
So Prowlatron on Twitter made this for me. Don't sweat it. I got this one covered.
I'm gonna cut these guys. Watch! Come here! I'm gonna cut these guys. Watch!
That was audio.
Oh.
I saw you retweeted. I didn't turn on the volume. I should have.
It fits so well. Like, so well.
Because that's what happens. Like, it's I mean, I've heard nobody in the production of Transformers 1 say thing one about Transformers Animated. But like, I mean, again, it's so, I mean, even to the point where it's kind of the same thing. And Sari kind of has the same attitude as B. She goes fucking kill crazy. It's like, I don't know what it is about knife hands. Like, being imbued with the power of knife hands gives you a taste for murder. Because, like, I mean, we don't talk about this enough, but old B127 likes killing people. He loves it. It's like to the point where it's like you might need some help, buddy.
Knocking and killing his two favorite things.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. To the point where he spoiler alert, turns his talents on his good friend Steve and A-Tron. It's like, again, just like what happens to Bumblebee here.
Yeah.
See, you want to talk about callbacks, call forwards. It's like, see, now I almost want to see a reprise of this where it's Sari stabbing Bumblebee, and she's like, my hands, they're straight up knives. Shunk. No, because it's what happens here.
Yeah, very true.
One last thing I want to talk about on the character design, because I've somehow not mentioned this. I love the bit of sound design when any of her enhancements come out, just like that doo-doo-doo.
It's a good little noise.
It's a pretty cool noise. I like that. I like that sound effect there. So,
well, I think one of the things we kind of are dancing around a little bit here is that, like, when she goes to upgrade herself to save Bumblebee, she takes on a appearance that's very much like Bumblebee. And I don't know if that was like thrown, like the battle mask and everything is very much like G1 Bumblebee inspired, and it's like I wonder if how much was going into that of like, well, she's been so close to Bumblebee, she's saving Bumblebee, let's make her look a little like Bumblebee.
For sure. Well, and it's interesting too, because like when she has the battle mask on, it completely conceals her identity. So I don't know if this comes to anything later or if it was because I don't know how surprised the Autobots are. Like I mean, I think they immediately despite now having the body of a tween teenager, it's like they immediately clocked that it's Sari. But it was interesting having like the full helmet and face mask, and even like the voice modulation too, because like she now has a kind of like robot voice when she's in battle mode. The other thing also, and I talk, maybe it's just because of like the way the performance develops, or if it's just maybe spoilers yet to come, but like it feels like Tara Strong's take on the voice here is still kind of like 8-year-old Sari, just up a little bit. And it's not
right.
It's not as mature as it is when we get to Human Error.
Well, even going into TransWarped Part 3, like is where she starts playing it up. But yeah, I didn't clock that change in her voice until the next episode. It definitely wasn't here.
Yeah, no, you're right. Here in this episode, she is just definitely just
kidding it out.
Out of the box Sari.
Yeah.
Except for the battle mask stuff, because again, it's like I think that modulated voice is kind of like the gateway to where her voice ends up. All right, friends. Well, that is it for part 2. Before we sign off for this installment, let's do a very brief Mike's G1 score, and maybe I can coax a preview haiku from my friend Michael Andrews, and then we'll.
He already has it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can do it. Don't worry.
So this in terms of like G1 score, this is a sharp drop off. I mean, it's like we go from like a 8.8 in part 1, kind of like reimagined into an 8.6. This is significantly lowered. It's like, sure, you've got Cliffjumper, but we've already seen him. Sure, you see Perceptor. You got Rock Lords, but that's a different franchise, but still kind of like G1. You got Knife Hands, ! But that's not G1 either. Regardless, there were enough references in here where I give this guy a 4.2. 4.2 for part 2 of TransWarped.
All right.
Yeah. And spoiler alert for part 3, with the returns diminish. And knowing the Mike Seibert scale, the lower the G1 score, the higher the TFA scale. So it's like, we're going from thematically G1 homage to blazing our own path and doing our own thing. And again, spoilers alert, my score will reflect that as we get into part 3. But that will be coming up in our next episode. And speaking of our next episode, before we part ways for now, it's time for Ichabod Drift's favorite segment. It is time for the Michael Andrews preview haiku, a preview of our next episode.
Yeah, here we go. And I better get the snaps this time, guys. For real.
Yeah.
All right. Sari, down and out. Autobots, regroup for more. Rise, Omegatron.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, that's some good audible snapping there, too. Good stuff. Well, friends, we did it. We did it.
Did the thing. We accomplished something.
Yeah, we have accomplished something.
I was going to ask if I could be part of the outro as it fades out into the music, but I think it's too late for that. I think we already did that part.
I think we already did that part, but through the magic of editing. Want to be a part of the show? Send us an email to mikes2furious@gmail.com. You can also comment on episodes on Spotify and on YouTube. Follow us on Blue Sky individually at Mike Seibert Radio and at Michael Andrews, respectively, and follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 2 Mikes 2 Furious.